everyone, my name is Callie and welcome to my place and my plot. So now that all of the patching and all of the taping and the washing of the walls, oh yeah, and removing all the faceplates and stuff, now that all of that is done, it is time for video number 2 in my spare room makeover, and that is painting the walls. Now we haven't actually talked about my plan for this much, so I will explain. I have paint color I call sort of a sagey green. I can't tell you what it is. I can't even tell you the sheen because I mixed it up. I had lots of leftover paints in the basement and I started mixing them together, trying to end up with a sagey green, and I got one I quite liked. So, because of the times, I'm going to use this as the main color on these walls. But I want to do an ombre stripe treatment. I was inspired by Pinterest and I will try and show you that here now. You can see that this is a home gym and it has stripes on the lower half of the wall. I really liked this idea. I'm trying to go for something energetic in this room, and I thought stripes would give it a little bit more energy and movement. I want to use this room as my get up in the morning room to get dressed and do my hair and such. And so energy is good for that. And I want it as a home gym area. And so that also requires a bit of energy. So I wanted to do these stripes on the walls. And so what I wanted to start with is a base coat. And that's what this video is going to cover. So rather than just let you watch me paint and trim and tape and I decided to give you a few lessons on Painting 101. So what you'll find hidden in this video are how to trim 101 and get a nice clean line, and how to fill a roller and paint a wall and get a nice smooth coat. So if you already know all that stuff, you might want to skip through some of those parts, but you get to see some of the trials and tribulations of me painting this wall. One of which is the color wasn't quite what I was expecting it to be. Anyway, so that's this one. In the next video, we'll actually cover how to do the stripes and how to do the ombre. So I hope you enjoy this Painting 101. So after all of that, here is what the color chart was that I wound up doing. I mixed my unique green with different ratios of white I bought off the shelf. So here's what I discovered. You see the white down there at the bottom? I bought an antique white, which has a slight, well, it's an off-white. And I tried some of these other colors, especially like the 30-to-1 mix, and all they did was turn out gray. What I've decided to do is, because the antique white is more of a, I think it's more of a beige tinged white. So it's not a yellow or a blue or anything weird like that. It's a beige tinged white, and there's a lot of earthy colors in my house. I've decided to paint the whole room with this antique white with no mixing. So I've already started the painting. So this wall has had one coat. See, this is why I primed. Even primed, it's going to take 2 coats to cover this thing. So I'm just getting started on this wall with all the doors and everything. So I'm one of those people who believes in painting that, like, you want to keep the wet line. for doing the trim first, doing the rolling second. I've messed that up a little bit because I had some paint on the roller. And then doing a smooth coat as your last roll. You'll see what I do. You decide if this is for you. But that's how I paint. So here I go. So here we are back again. And I wanted to show you where I am now at. So white walls. But then I went, it's really white. Door, wall, and and this needs a second coat anyway. You can see the color bleeding through, but it matches the trim really well. Ugh. Okay, I can't deal with this much white. So I added a bit of the green that I'm hoping to make the ombre with to the paint, just for my future records. These two walls took about 2 inches of paint down in the paint can. I measured up on one of the paint sticks, 5 inches of white paint left, antique white, and I added a cup of the green paint I have mixed. And I got this color. Here, let me show you. Whoops, there you go. Let me show you. Okay, it still just looks white, right? And then here it is on the wall. And I think, yeah, you can almost even tell there is a tinge of green to this. I kind of like this. I think it's going to be okay. And I like that there's a bit more contrast between the trim. So this is what it's going to be. Hopefully I have enough paint left, but I have recorded the recipe now, so at least I know what the recipe is. So now I'm going to go ahead, paint the first coat of this color on the walls, and we shall see what happens. I'm back. So I'm about to do the last end of the wall here, and I thought you might find it useful to see a little bit more about how I'm differing this coat from the first coat I put on. You'll notice I'm not stretching the paint anymore. I'm refilling my brush. I'm not filling it as heavily, but I'm refilling the roller, that is, 3 times on each chunk of wall as I go down. And you can see the difference. Here, when it goes on, it looks much more like a brown beige, and over here it's drying, and it's amazing. It still looks white, and yet it isn't. Boy, whites are tough. Good luck to all of you doing whites. So I'm going to show you a few details about just how I load the brushes and how I do the trim work, so you can learn from my years of experience of having to cover over all the mistakes I do. So here's my brush, and this is not what it's supposed to look like. Ideally, you only get about 1/3 to 2/3 of the brush filled with paint. You'll notice I have paint all over this thing. Remember, I stored it against the roller in my plastic bag. Let me interrupt myself right here. I never actually found the video clip where I showed you this most useful trick. Look, see, the brush cleaned up quite well, but pretend this is now covered in paint nicely. But you need to take a break. Lunch, I don't know, 2 days off. You work for a living, right? Easy way to store your brushes. Take your wet brush, shove it into just your standard, what is this? Grocery bag or whatever. Get it into the corner, smooth it out so the paint is touching all the way around it, and then twist it. So your brush needs to actually have paint on it for this to work, because you're trying to kind of seal it so there's no air. I don't even twist tie or anything at the bottom. But the worst part about painting is the prep and the cleanup. Why clean up if you're not actually done? Take your wet brushes, do this to them. You can leave it like this for a day or 2 or 3 easily. You can stick this in the fridge for even longer. I painted the exterior of my house a summer or 2 ago, and I used one brush, one roller over 2 weeks. And all I would do is wrap this up, throw it in the fridge if I knew I wasn't going to be painting for a couple of days, or I just left it inside the house for a day or two, well, because I knew I was going to start again the next day. And it's wonderful. It works beautifully. But your brush gets really messy. You do the same thing if it's a roller. Just pretend, hey, this is the roller. The best thing about doing this is it allows you to switch between colors. So here's the stick. There's your roller. You put your roller inside. Do the same thing. Shove it up in the corner, and you can grab it and pull the roller off your rolling rod. And now just the roller is in here, and you can wrap it up. And now you can put a new roller on your rod, and away you go. You can paint another color and still have this color and switch between. I'm telling you, very useful tip. So that's where that's coming from. It'll clean up a bit. But here's how I like to load the brush. So first, a lot of people try and paint like this, holding the end. They say, and it does work, and it's easier on your hand, if you grab it way up here, maybe curl your fingers under, but you want to grab it way up here. And notice this one is actually made to rest in the heel of your thumb there. When I'm loading it, the idea is to dip it in about a third, and then when there's room, slap off enough of the extra, and that is a nicely loaded brush. So just for fun, I'll show you right here how I trim against a wall. Let's pretend this paint edge is the edge I'm actually trying to paint against. If I have a lot of paint on my brush, I may start away from it and bring it in. Sometimes you have a little bead of paint along the side, and you don't want that to seriously affect where you're going. But notice I'm pushing, and then you may have seen me come up the opposite direction. Sometimes I'll go right back over it. So again, I'm pushing, and you'll notice, there you go, you'll notice how nice and sweet an edge you can get from your bristles. So this, you'll notice, is an angle brush. It's an angle brush, as you can see. Those work very nice. It is also just a touch thinner at the top than it is at the bottom, at the base. And I love this brush. I think it's a synthetic fiber one. Look at it, I think everyone says it's a Rubbermaid brush. How cool is that? I don't even know, but you just gotta get yourself a decent brush. And the one that you use for trimming is well worth the investment. So let's talk rollers. A roller is a roller is a roller, but this roller handle, oh man, invest in a good one. Nice sturdy plastic. This one has a bit of metal at the end. This is typically where they split due to excessive pressure because you're pushing too hard to try and get the paint out of the brush. If you're pushing that hard to get the paint out of the roller, that is, you don't have enough paint on your roller. But sometimes it happens. I never paint walls without having an extension. This could be, this one happens to be an expandable one, but heck, just take the stick off your broom and shove it in there. It saves your back. It saves the up and downs. I can load the brush from the floor. I can get all the way up to the ceiling and carry it all the way down to the floor, all while standing perfectly upright. Well worth it. Now, when it comes to the rollers, they come in different naps. Typical walls, walls with lots of bumpiness, and then like super smooth ones. Go ahead and ask at your paint store, but basically you get, it tells you on the roller package, if it's for semi-gloss paints or if it's for rough surfaces, there will be a longer nap, like the roller will be fluffier. I'm just using sort of the standard one for semi-gloss here. All right, loading your brush. The first few times you do this, it's really takes a while to get the roller well loaded because it's plain old dry. But the idea here is I am using the ramp to try and get the paint all over the roller. And then I'm using the ramp to just kind of smooth it out. Notice I'm like lifting and letting it run. That allows me to start at another point. Like you want to make sure you are rolling on all the parts of the roller. Sometimes I also do this. I'm putting a little excess pressure on the ends. The ends tend to get very loaded with paint. Hang on, I'm going to have to do this one this way. And so you may want to, see, you can see the line coming off of it. You may want to do that just to avoid lines in your paint. And so that's the basics. I typically use that whole M or W shape. Okay, and now I'm doing this one-handed. So I can tell you right now, I am not putting much pressure on this. Up, down. Am I making you dizzy yet? Up, down. And they say about a 4-foot square area. Notice I go over it about twice. I mean, your goal here is to spread the paint. And I find if you only do this like once up and down, your paint will not cover as well. It will not spread. There'll be little divots and empty places that didn't pick up the paint. At this point, I would reload. And there is still plenty of paint on this, but I'd have to press a little harder. And I don't want to, because remember, I'm not stretching my paint right now. I wanted to give a good coat of coverage. The last thing you see me do before I just go ahead and finish this up is when I've done the top, the middle, and the bottom, I run my roller from the bottom all the way up to the top. Now, if your roller is really dry, it will pick up paint. You might even be able to see the sheen change here. So I usually like to have at least some paint loaded on the brush, and then you're going to go top to bottom to top, being careful you don't leave any beads of paint, just to smooth the coat, and it leaves you with a nice even coat. So there it is. The base coat is on the walls. In the next video, I will show you how I managed to paint stripes that stayed level across 4 different walls, and how I mixed the ombre from my one main color that I would not be able to replicate because I just threw a bunch of paints together and got a color I liked. Should be a fun video. Thank you so much for watching this time. Hope to see you next time. Feel free to hit that like and subscribe if you'd like to know when my next video comes out.